In this video, I'll teach you the secret behind successful aggressive play, something that's almost never talked about despite being so important. My first objective in any fight is to gather information, as that will influence my decision making in a big way. For example, despite being much stronger up close, I choose to take an annoying off angle and spam. But why? Well, the enemy composition has a lot of damage and powerful cooldowns that require careful planning to play around. So if I wanted to be more aggressive, I would need a good enough setup to enable such an approach to work. Unfortunately, this area of the map sucks, so not only is this right side flank a little awkward to use, but it's also being carefully watched and marked by the enemy team, meaning that I'm unlikely to reach the range I need with sufficient resources to make it worth my while. Essentially, the return on investment for an aggressive play right now is really low. So rather than trying to brute force my way in, I patiently poke from a great position that gives me much higher ROI, seeing as I deal much more damage than I take, allowing your team to slowly but surely gain a resource advantage that will eventually enable us to push in. Unfortunately, just as we're ready to get involved, the enemy team finds a crucial pick, winning the fight on the spot. Here we find ourselves in an interesting situation. The enemy Orisa is controlling a lot of space while her team sits back, and the same can be said about me and my team. This means that our job for now is simply to hold these positions while everyone else moves forward to find relevant sightlines for the fight. Engaging 1v4 isn't known to provide good ROI, contrary to what our favorite teammates like to think. In that case, the best play I can make at this moment is to just shoot Orisa while avoiding poke damage, something I failed miserably at. Thankfully I managed to survive this stupid peek, and now that both teams are much closer, I instantly move towards a close range off angle, seeing as this area of the map provides much better setups than the previous one. The flank works wonders, compromising Bastion's position and granting what should have been a free pick if not for this well placed trap. Smart! With the fight still not resolved, I find quick access to the enemy supports, leading to an interesting skirmish whose result depends purely on which side plays better. Skill check passed successfully. Now it's our turn to face the high ground advantage, and let's just say this is really not enjoyable, especially because of this annoying Junkrat angle. I was hoping to get a good opportunity to dive him, but was instead met with an explosive to the face followed by a riptire. Ugh. Time for a quick lesson. A good general rule of thumb for Genji decision making is to follow this flowchart. Is it worth closing the gap? If yes, is it possible to close the gap? If yes, do it! We're at our strongest in close range combat, so if the ROI for it is high, setting up should be our top priority. This will be the case more often than not, so the default train of thought should be to constantly look for the opportunity to use the map to our advantage. But what if it isn't possible to close the gap? In that case, judge if having to work through the obstacle still makes the eventual payoff worth it. In this fight, we can easily figure that out by checking which team benefits from a stalemate. Since we're at a disadvantage, time is against us, so I should have hard flanked on the right to bypass their defensive stronghold. To finish the flowchart, all that's left is to close out the no branches with a quick poke into re-evaluation loop. Don't worry if this seems overwhelming at first, as there will be plenty of examples throughout the video to showcase everything here. Alright, this next play has to be my proudest one of the match. The enemy team is close to reaching the checkpoint and I'm the only one alive. Time for a hero play. As I was saying, hero play. Flawless decision making and execution, am I right? Oh, how I was looking forward to attacking this area of the map again. Can't wait for neither team to make a move for 2 hours. Wait, the enemy is pushing up aggressively? Did they forget I was right there and ready to pounce, or are they simply naive? Regardless, I have to say, thanks for giving my setup value. Unfortunately, both sides took heavy casualties, so at the end of the exchange we barely made any progress. Surely nothing wrong will happen in the next attempt. As the bot moves back to our side, I take a long flank to herd the enemy team into a bad spot, cutting off their escape path. Not only that, The angle also provides great spam value since our opponents are stuck in this corner hiding from the high grounds, making shot lineups really easy. With that being said, I close the gap to make a play with even better ROI, forcing the enemy into a do or die situation. Learning from past fights, I used the respawn downtime to go for a lengthy setup, hoping to catch someone by surprise. If successful, this play would have methodically dismantled their formation, but unfortunately I wasn't near stealthy enough to make it work. I keep trying to find another way in, but I can't seem to find any path that would work, so I eventually give up and return main, sadly. In hindsight, I could have dashed toward the mini health pack room and gone for another herding mission. This move was impossible to punish, as I would be too far to push with such a slow composition, and my team was also safe for pretty much the same reason, even in a 4v5 situation. Instead, we faced the same immovable object as before, and as expected, it doesn't budge. I decide to try the flank again to see if it works this time, and surprisingly, I don't get marked. Our opponents decided to give up all the space they controlled to bunker in this large room, a decision that would have cost them the fight if not for their ult bank.
The enemy took control of the robot.
Still, all they got from such a big commitment was our cast and a bit of space, which isn't nearly enough to let them walk up in the face of a well set up beat blade. Time to make some progress. I take their high ground early, making sure to use cover really well to avoid getting poked out. After all, my objective here is simply to control space, preventing my team from getting crossfired and thus helping them stay alive while pushing the bots.
We're gonna take the lead! Let's take him to the underworld!
That, and I was preserving my resources to follow up on our rampage, leading to a clean checkpoint capture. Due to the layout of this next area, our opponents are basically forced to path close to the corner I'm holding before having a choice of angle to take, which means I can lurk for an effective backline play. The only issue with this idea is that I'm very far up compared to my team, meaning I have to be very careful as for how and when I choose to engage, something I clearly wasn't. Don't try to mindlessly abuse swift cuts like I just did, unless you want to share that same fate. Alright, no need to overthink this next one. Good angle, Quinn goes in, I look to follow, and I'm gone. I'm aware this wasn't the best engagement ever, but damn, that felt personal. Since I'm late to this fight, I don't have the time to do my usual flank play, so I instead move to stop point and find a Wu Yang at point blank range. Convenient! There isn't much to say afterwards, as our opponents decided to run it down and we promptly stomped them with Beat Blade. This might have been an overcommitment, but I'm fine with that, as losing our lead there would have been disastrous. With only a single fight left, I think about the ult economy, noticing that our upcoming rampage is basically unstoppable, which means only one thing: surviving is our top priority. Everyone runs from the Riptire, giving up a ton of space for the chance to live another day. The immediate threat might have been dealt with, but it left us in bad shape. Thankfully, pushing forward isn't the enemy team's forte, so we stabilize, I flank the backline, and we go to town. With heavy casualties from both sides, I move back to stop the bots, looking to stall for a spawn advantage to kick in. Getting a pick 1v2 was not part of the plan, but hey, I'm not complaining, and with that, we close out a really tough match, but there's still a bit more gameplay to talk about. The Colosseo portion showcased the mostly standard way of playing Genji, involving a lot of thought about setting up and the occasional long-range spam when it was appropriate. Now, let's contrast that with a different matchup, Dive. The level of mobility we're facing makes point-blank engagements really scary, seeing as dash isn't a reliable escape anymore. Not only that, these characters do a much better job at dueling Genji up close, so failing to deal enough damage will get you chased and eliminated. This completely flips our usual range dynamics, incentivizing good spacing to force our opponents to use their mobility to get in, and thus restoring dash's status as a viable escape option. Now, this doesn't mean we will spend the entire game running away and poking. Rather, we have to be smarter than usual about when to close the gap. This Winston provides a great example, as he didn't have enough resources to fight me, and so he was forced to run away to stay alive. Not long after, he goes for another engagement, but since he didn't get enough ROI, our team got a resource advantage from that exchange. Now, it's our turn to push.
Alright, progress! That's what I like to see!
You're in the way.
If this fight looked effortless, that's because it kind of was. Granted, it won't always be easy like this, but if you properly use the ideas discussed in this video, you will feel much more in control of the value you get in a match. If you'd like to know more about beating Dive as Genji, check out the stream I did recently covering a high rank match in great depth.